Infrastructure, both physical and digital, is actually a fascinating story. From 5G penetration to dedicated freight corridors, India is unclogging its mobility, ladies and gentlemen. And whilst we're at it, like the Dhola Sadia Bridge as well, the second longest, ladies and gentlemen, Dhola Sadia Bridge, which is the second longest connecting the remote northeast states of Assam and Arunachal Pradesh. This bridge connects people from the village of Dhola in the south to the village of Sadia to the north, helping with their lives and livelihood. The bridge is cutting down time for daily commuters by 5 hours, ladies and gentlemen, क्योंकि बनेगा तो बढ़ेगा India.
Absolutely, Kabir. And in an era defined by rapid digitization, infrastructure development, his insights and experience, and we are talking about Union Minister Ashwini Vishnav here, are invaluable as we navigate challenges and opportunities that lie ahead.
Absolutely. Please put your hands together, ladies and gentlemen, for the Honorable Union Minister of Railways, Communications and IT, Ashwini Vishnav. And to conduct this session, ladies and gentlemen, can I please ask my colleagues, TV9 Networks, Rakesh Khar and Karthik Malhotra. Gentlemen, the floor is all yours.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'll request for one more chair, please, for Rakesh and me. I think enough introduction has been made, which was actually Shweta Kabir, quite unnecessary. Everybody knows the man behind whatever we are seeing today, from our UPI transactions to the Vande Bharat to the rollout of 5G, and dare I say, we are also venturing towards 6G. So, Mr. Ashwini Vishnav, thank you so much for joining us here today, sir. Rakesh, I'll request you to sit down while I pose perhaps my first question in a lighter vein to the minister. Sir, I know your sun sign is Cancer, in fact succeeds the other sun sign that I want to talk about. What's the first thing that comes to your mind when I say Gemini?
Gemini must make sure that its models are properly trained. The racial bias and many other biases will not be tolerated.
Mr. Vishnav, we are in an interesting situation. At one level, we want to engage with the tech behemoths, and they're omnipresent, as we all know. They have a far greater share of the wallet, the share of voice, and now Gemini, as we say, it's peddling a narrative which is not based on facts. So where does one draw the line between engaging with these big businesses, which India has done through both the official services and the private sector, and also ensuring the rights of the consumer and the rights of privacy for them? How do we navigate this complex labyrinth?
If you keep your goal very clearly focused on the welfare of the people, making sure that the foundation of Viksit Bharat is being set, keeping the focus clearly on the goals, I think that's the way to work. I'm sure all of you must be working exactly the same way.
Yeah. Please.
Mr. Vaishnav, I want to understand from you. Obviously, we did a session on AI a couple of hours before you joined us today. And the large concern in the room was about the fact that how do you draw that fine balance between innovation and regulation? We haven't really seen yet, and I'm hoping by July, if the timelines given by your ministry are to be believed, then by July, we will have formal AI regulations on the table. But what is in it in those regulations so that we ensure that we are able to progress and develop artificial intelligence in the most innovative manner like the rest of the world, and not really get bogged down by regulations? How much regulation is too much regulation?
See, we have already demonstrated to the world that it is possible to have a regulatory structure which basically balances regulation and innovation. There are two such examples of this. First is the DPDP Act, second is the Telecom Act. Both of them are very clear examples of how fine balance between innovation and regulation can be very nicely done. And this has been noticed by the world. Globally, so many experts have met me already who say that there are countries which were too much focused on regulation. There are countries which have given too much leeway for laissez-faire kind of innovation. Whereas India's rules, India's laws, are a good balance between healthy space for innovation, whereas good protection of the citizens and users. So that balance is possible to do, first. Second, India has among the largest talent pool for development of AI. So the structure we have followed so far is public-private partnership, where the government puts its investment in creating a platform, and then startups, academia, all of them can use that platform for creating new solutions. For example, the UPI. Similar structure we are planning for AI, where we'll create an AI mission. With public investment, we'll create a compute power. That compute will be now available to startups, to academia, and the focus will be on developing solutions which are relevant for economy, which are relevant for agriculture, for weather forecasting, for logistics, for healthcare, for education. So this will be the focus. That is the way we are processing.
Yeah, Mr. Minister, when we brought about data as the core of our policy making under the current Prime Minister, there was criticism, pehle aata, baad mein data. We proved all the naysayers wrong. But, there's a view gaining currency that probably we're a little late in adopting AI, the light touch regulation, you're conscious of the way you have to regulate it. But on the ground, are we prepared enough? And, are you confident that we'll be ahead of the curve when it comes to AI?
Absolutely. On the ground, we are prepared. And in fact, if you look at it, we have been using AI for more than 20 years now. In our country, in the last 10 years, there are hundreds of applications, hundreds of new ways of working where the use of AI has significantly grown. There are so many startups and so many established IT industries which have adopted AI well before it became so popular in public imagination as, after the launch of ChatGPT. Much before that, the industrial applications, the applications in business and commerce, AI has been an integral part of our IT industry. So I think at the grassroots level also we are well prepared for making our larger population aware. We have launched multiple programs where we have by now trained more than 1 million people in the basics of AI and to be able to understand what are the benefits of it.
So what is going to be your personal focus as part of your ministry's objective? Are we looking at replicating the success story we've had in core IT services as an export to the world? Now AI potentially replacing, if not adding more value to that IT services story? Or is it going to be the push on semiconductors where the government has a 76,000 crore rupee outlay? And unfortunately, we haven't yet heard too much news about core manufacturing of fabs of 28 nm and below. Any groundbreaking announcement on that as yet? We still seem to be a little more forthcoming when it comes to assembly and packaging. So according to you, will the both move hand in hand, or will one be a little more superior to the other?
We are a country of 1.4 billion people, growing at a pace of 6 to 8%. We have very diverse population, different people at different stages of skill, different people at different stages of education, different stages of income. We cannot take any policy decision between this or that. Okay. This is a fallacy which is presented by many so-called experts. We have to go for this and that. We have to go both for IT services and manufacturing. We have to go both for low-end manufacturing and high-end manufacturing. We have to go for both semiconductor packaging and semiconductor fab. We have to go for foundry as well as design. It cannot be this or that. So wait for a few more weeks, maximum few weeks.
Some big ticket headline coming up.
Fab announcement also you'll have very soon.
An Indian company or an international company coming in partnership with an Indian company?
I'm holding a responsible position. I'm not a person whom you can extract a name out. So don't even try that.
Okay, fair enough.
Will it be 28 nm and around, or are we still looking at a 40 nm range, sir? At least that much you can give us today. You've come all the way to the event, sir.
Thoda intezar karo.
Let it pass. Mr. Minister, we've all been talking about the DPI story. It's a grand global template. And we see DPI, being seen as a big ticket export, the defining export from the Indian context. So, that's a great story to tell. And one, where are we in that export? Where exactly is the trajectory going? And second, there's also a view that, export at the influencer level is fine. It's a great idea. But what about monetizing this as an opportunity from an export perspective?
Already three countries are already using it. You are aware. France is using it, UAE is using it, and Singapore is using it. About 30 countries are already in the process of evaluation. So UPI is already exported. There is a lot of interest all across the world for getting UPI within the system. We have signed MOU with Japan, and actually Japan has granted a patent to UPI. Japan has actually granted a patent to UPI. So it's a model, it's a technology which is today widely accepted as a very good way of designing the payment system. Moreover, above that, the structure that we have created, structure in which no one company can be dominant, that structure is highly appreciated by world over, by the policymakers as well as common citizens.
Karthik, there's a related question here. You know, the DPI mechanism, obviously, we celebrated as a grand success. But back home, you know, it's largely running in the government, fuel. You know, it's being largely managed by the government, both as a cost center and also as an operational center. There's large talk of an ecosystem of entrepreneurship, you know, being built around in the private sector. Is that a stated objective, or you want to continue, so to say, subsidizing DPI, penetration in this country domestically?
See, if you look at the model, if you try to understand it, then you'll find out how finely that balance between private and public sector is. Had it been purely developed by the private sector, imagine the concentration of this entire very, very important part of the Indian economy in the hands of one corporate or two corporates. Correct? Had it been purely done by government, there would be significant level of, we wouldn't have been able to reach a level which the energy of entrepreneurs can really take it forward. That's why the thought process of having a public-private partnership, where today more than 400 banks are already on the UPI, more than 35 million merchants are already on UPI, more than 400 million users are already on the UPI. If you want to start a payment application tomorrow, you can actually do it. So what is the idea? The idea, thought process is, our Prime Minister is very clear that technology has to be democratized. Technology should be available to every common citizen, as much to you as to a person in the remote parts of Jharkhand, as much to a person in Mumbai, as to a person on the boats of Kerala. It has to be equally available to everybody. That is the thought process by which this entire system has been designed. It is working very well. The world is appreciating, because this flattens the difference between the haves and have-nots. This is a way of inclusive growth. One of the most important objectives of Prime Minister Modi ji's economic policy is inclusive growth. Program after program is designed for inclusive growth. Everything that we do is designed to have has inclusivity as an integral part of it.
Sir, I appreciate the UPI initiative of financial inclusion and the geographic unlimitations that it opens up. But in the context of ONDC, which is again an integral component of the overall DPI architecture, within ONDC, do you feel there is need for the government to actually create a platform and an enabling ecosystem for buyers and sellers? Aren't you, in a way, then getting into a competitive zone with private players?
ONDC is a network of networks.
Right.
It is a network of networks. It's a platform of platforms, right? So today, let's say, Flipkart can also be part of ONDC, platform becoming part of the ONDC, right? Somebody who's new, who doesn't have a platform but wants to have an innovative test and innovative idea, they can also be a part of this. And a large part of the merchant community, especially the small retailers, very small logistics providers, they need not be worried about the concentration of power in the hands of a few. Okay. That's very important. That's why I sincerely believe, and I request all the policy makers to think about this as a way to, once again, democratize technology, make sure that technology is accessible to all, make sure that it doesn't get concentrated in the hands of the few.
Is it fair for the government to keep subsidizing it, sir?
There is no question of subsidizing it. Both the programs, whether it is UPI, whether it is ONDC, whether it is healthcare program, the logistics platform, education platform, every such platform has its own ways of monetizing, correct? Today, most of the UPI players, most of the ONDC players, most of the healthcare players, they are actually finding the platform as a way to increase their income. There is no question of subsidies here.
Mr. Minister, the entire India economic growth story for decades has rested on the strength of our IT pack. But given the global headwinds, we have some challenges there. There are emerging economies also competing in that space. And the matter of the fact is also that we haven't been able to, so to say, reimagine the business model at one level. And also we have 3 or 4 big companies. We haven't been able to replicate the success that these 3 big ticket packs have achieved into other domains. Is that a matter of concern? Because it is the foundation on the tech story that India is so happy about.
India's tech story has multiple number of players. I can see results coming, some very good ideas and many startups coming from tier 2 and tier 3 cities. So I don't know why your question.
The scale that I was mentioning, Infosys, TCS,
There will be some players who will grow very big, obviously, in every industry. But there are hundreds and hundreds of other players who are providing very good services. I know of one engineering outsourcing company which is today designing some of the most complex machines. I interacted with one chip design company which is small size, mid size, but actually designing some of the most complex chips in the world. So there are hundreds and hundreds of such examples.
Competition for the emerging markets.
I request the media friends to keep your horizon broad. You cannot be like such a narrow view. Please keep your horizon broad.
We invested in the India growth
so many good examples out there.
I wanted to jump in with a question on electronics manufacturing, and that, of course, is an area which is deeply centered in your ministry, sir. We've seen amazing success with Apple manufacturing in India and Samsung through contract manufacturers manufacturing in India. There are reports about India wanting to start its own mobile manufacturing brand as well. What are the talks in your ministry around that, sir? Are we looking at building a brand that is going to be as compelling as an Apple or Samsung?
See, from practically negligible, we have reached mobile manufacturing of $55 billion by now. Exports of about $12–13 billion this year. The component ecosystem is coming. Design talent is available. So this is a very natural progression from being a very small player 10 years back to a major player now. So it's very natural progression that our own brands start establishing, develop products, come to a level where they will be basically competing with the best in the world. So this is definitely the next target that we will be working towards our own Indian brand and also making sure that the component and design ecosystem grows in a very big way, exactly the way mobile manufacturing has grown so far.
So what is going to be the role of the government in building those brands, sir, and how is the private sector going to partner with the government?
See, 10 years back, how many startups were there? Very few startups. Today, more than 100,000 startups. Today, more than 100 unicorns are there. Electronics manufacturing from nothing to 100 billion plus. DPI, totally inexistent to a totally new framework. Government's role is to be that catalyst.
Okay.
Government's role is to be that enabler. Government's role is to be that force multiplier which can help the private sector, which can help the entrepreneurs develop solutions which are good.
Mr. Minister, you're also revolutionizing the public mobility infrastructure in this country through the railways, and railways have a new name in Vande Bharat in terms of the public face, especially in the urban India. Are we sticking to the time plan that you have for this? It's one of the most prestigious projects that the Prime Minister has, and you are executing as the CEO of this project.
Multiple points on this. First, very big focus on passengers, very big focus on new technology, huge emphasis on scaling up the work, significant reforms which have really changed the way railways operates, big focus on making it green. So there are so many dimensions of this point that I think it will require a full 1 hour session to be able to do justice to it.
Are you happy with the state of development of platforms, sir? I understand, railway bogies and railway lines as one part of the story.
When did you last visit a railway station?
New Delhi railway station about a year ago, sir. And Pathankot railway station about 8-9 months ago.
Right? So 10 years ago, if you would go to a railway station, you would have to actually pinch your nose. That was the condition, right? Today, stations are neat and clean. Just today, Honorable Prime Minister laid the foundation for 553 new stations. Few months back, Prime Minister had laid the foundation for 508 stations. And take a look at one of the presentations I gave just an hour back. How much work is progressing on each of these stations. Your person was there, TV9 person was there. कहाँ है? जो अभी railway board में थे, मेरे साथ थे.
Anthony.
Yeah, one of your colleagues was there. So take that presentation, take a look at that, run it on your show. Significant progress on each of those railway stations. This is world's largest station redevelopment program that no other country has ever attempted. And the progress is phenomenal. Take a look at those pictures where the work is being depicted along with the futuristic vision of that work.
Mr. Minister, the theme today is infra investment and IT. This is the intersection that's driving the India growth story. You yourself represent the intersection so well. You came from the bureaucracy, moved into be a big ticket leader for the corporate world, and then have come into politics full time. I'm happy to note that we have in you 3 very, very important economic ministries being manned, and the Prime Minister has shown tremendous faith in, so to say, giving these roles to top bureaucrats. So the B factor in the Modi government has suddenly become a big play. Does it put some additional pressure on you, or are you happy wearing various hats?
Modi ji's factor is do factor. Do. Keep working. Keep achieving newer goals. Don't think small, think big. That is the B factor. Think big. That is the do factor. Keep doing, keep executing.
But it has helped immensely in bridging the deficit between the bureaucracy and the vision of the government that it's outlaid over the last 10 years. Has it?
Having understanding of government does help, definitely. Having understanding of having an economic point of view of things, that definitely helps. That definitely is a good advantage.
Sir, I want to come back a little bit to, we were talking about smartphone manufacturing and we were talking about electronics manufacturing. I want to come back and maybe revisit, the IT hardware like PCs and laptops and certain restrictions that were imposed and then withdrawn. Why were those imposed in the first place? Why were they withdrawn? And are we likely to see a greater push towards more non-mobile electronics manufacturing with the upcoming semiconductor manufacturing that you spoke about happening here in India?
And if I can add to that, Karthik, obviously it's been a reformist government. The results are for everyone to see. But, there are naysayers, but there is at times criticism of the policies being very inward-looking, So in that sense, this policy came in, it was withdrawn, the rationale to bring it in and the rationale to withdraw it.
I think, Barun, you have to make sure that your teams are well attuned to the times. भाई, आज already servers का manufacturing start हो गया India में. Laptops manufacturing has already started. थोड़ा जाके cover करो यार. These are good things which are already happening. It's not a question of inward-looking policy. This is a question of Atmanirbhar Bharat. Atmanirbhar Bharat is a way of strengthening our industry, the way of using our design talent, creating a policy framework that encourages these actions. All the policies that we are making are done in consultation with the industry. There were extensive consultations. There are extensive consultations for everything that we do. You have seen when we formulated the DPDP Act, the consultations ran in the excess of 40,000 consultations. Telecom bill, 2022 onwards, we started working on it. I would have personally sat through at least 80 of consultations with the industry participants. Whatever we do, whatever policies come out, are basically done absolutely in consultation with the industry, and we are always open to changes. If something is giving a wrong signal, change it. Absolutely. If it has been done, even though if it is done with the industry in consultation with industry, even after that, if there is a signal which is not correct, then change it.
Do you think it did give out the wrong signal, sir?
Absolutely not. The industry was very clear on what it meant. Industry was very clear, and they were very comfortable with whatever was happening, and they only suggested that no, modify it like this so that the signal is correct.
Okay. And are you happy with the state of manufacturing of these, servers?
Absolutely,
and laptops,
it's going very strong. Please go out and cover it. You'll actually find beautiful stories out there. I'll tell you one. Yeah. I'll tell you one story. In one such manufacturing plant, the person who's working there is a girl from very remote part of Haryana, and she's working on that very complex machine for manufacture of a server, and the confidence with which she's working, phenomenal. Please go out and look at those human stories. They are so inspiring. They are so inspiring, significantly more inspiring than any film that you would have seen.
No, I'm sure there's a great human story there. Of course.
So we should.
I know there's a great human story to all the manufacturing and the employment it generates, sir. But are we moving on track? What I wanted to arrive at was, are we moving on track to compete with the level of manufacturing that we are seeing, which require to process artificial intelligence? Will we be in time to compete with the likes of NVIDIA or Huawei to draw the next phase of growth for India's electronics?
Absolutely. Some of the most complex semiconductor chips are designed in India. Most complex. The biggest semiconductor design talent is in India. 1/3 of the total semiconductor talent is in India. We have tied up with 104 universities ever since we launched the India Semiconductor Mission. We have changed the entire course curriculum. There are now semiconductor-focused BTech programs, MTech programs, PhD programs, clean room training programs. So there is absolutely a clear path towards India becoming the semiconductor capital of the world in the coming years. Nothing can stop it.
Semiconductor capital of the world, nothing can stop us, is the word coming from Minister Ashwini Vishnav. Ladies and gentlemen, a huge round of applause for Ashwini Vishnav. Sir, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you, sir. To the Union Minister, Shri Ashwini Vishnav, please, sir, do stay on with us on the stage for just a couple more moments, sir. Rakesh, sir, you also please do stay on with us. Because coming up on stage, ladies and gentlemen, is MD Punewala FinCorp, Mr. Ajay Bhutra. Please come on stage, sir, and could you please felicitate the Union Minister.
Our esteemed Union Minister.
A big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much, sir, for coming and gracing this occasion.